Deadly Diamonds by Sarah Hamaker. The race to find missing diamonds puts a widow in danger. 3 years ago, Dulce Honeycutt's life imploded when her husband died after robbing a jewelry store, and her 18-year-old son Kiernan landed in prison as an accessory. The uncut diamonds were never recovered, and when rumors fly that she and Kiernan know where the gems are hidden, their lives are in danger. Veteran insurance investigator Miles Sharp believes Dulce knows more about the diamonds than she's revealing. But as the attacks on the beautiful widow's life multiply, he struggles to maintain his professional objectivity. Is Dulce a victim, or is her story a sweet web of lies? Now an excerpt from Deadly Diamonds by Sarah Hamaker. The 40-something blonde didn't look like the wife of a killer. Miles Sharp eyed Dulce Honeycutt Smith as she expertly poured a refill on a customer's coffee while balancing a stack of dirty dishes in her other hand. He'd scoped out the place from his truck before choosing a seat to avoid sitting in her section of Jim's diner, wanting a chance to observe without interacting. Coffee? A waitress held a half-filled glass coffee pot in her hand, the other on her hip.
Yes, please.
He pushed the empty mug to the edge of the table. You're wasting your time, the woman said as she finished pouring.
I don't think so. The coffee smells delicious.
He took a cautious sip.
Just as good as I anticipated.
She snorted. I didn't peg you as an idiot, but if you want to go on pretending you don't know what I'm talking about. She shrugged. Ready to order? Miles had an inkling about what she meant, but decided to ignore her comment. He handed her the menu.
Trucker's Paradise with the eggs over easy.
Accepting it, she narrowed her eyes. You're not a journalist.
Madam!
Miles affected surprise, putting his hand over his heart.
That the thought would even cross your mind wounds me.
Well, you're not law enforcement. Her astute observation impressed him, but Miles hid it behind a non-committal smile.
No, ma'am.
He sipped his coffee, but the waitress didn't take the hint to move on to other customers. You're not from around here, so I figure you must be in town for her, which means you're also after the diamonds. Heat clawed up the back of Miles's neck, but with a deep breath, he willed it to recede.
Mavis, I'm dying of thirst over here,
called a man wearing a John Deere baseball cap. I'm coming, Mavis called over her shoulder, then turned back to Miles, her faded blue eyes hard. If you hurt her, you'll have to answer to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Miles considered her words as she crossed the room and deftly handled a rowdy table of long-haul truckers, probably the drivers of the 4 big rigs parked alongside of the building. Still, his employers were banking on his ability to ferret out information from the most close-mouthed individuals, and he had no doubt he'd succeeded. Watch out for table 19. Mavis slung empty plates into the bin near the dishwashing station with a clatter, then wiped her hands on a dish towel. At the kitchen pass-through window, Dulce Honeycutt frowned as she balanced plates filled with steaming food up her left arm. Is he being handsy? Disappointment crashed through her at the thought of the handsome stranger giving her friend trouble. Mavis laughed, but the sound wasn't as big and booming as usual. He's not that kind of trouble. Dulce froze halfway to the swinging door separating the back from the dining room. He's a journalist? No, and he's not a cop either. Mavis picked up her own orders, but he's trouble nonetheless. Good to know. Thanks for the heads up. Dulce continued on her trek to table 6, delivering the breakfast orders to a group of local businessmen who met at the diner each Monday morning for biscuits and Bible reading. "Here you go. Need anything else?"
"We're good, Dulce."
said Hank Davenport, president of the local bank. Dulce nodded, then moved off to check on her other 8 tables. Monday mornings were slow enough that she and Mavis split the dining room between them, but with all her tables served, she had a few minutes to herself. Slipping behind the counter, she started a fresh pot of coffee, then pulled out the tray of paper napkins and silverware, one of the many busy work tasks the servers did during their downtime. Now she used the work to cover her interest in the occupant of table 19. The man devoured his breakfast with the speed of one who clearly viewed food as fuel. A lock of his jet-black hair rested against his forehead, complementing his bronzed skin. His high cheekbones and flashing dark eyes had her wondering if his heritage included a Native American or two in the family tree. She agreed with Mavis's assessment that the man wasn't law enforcement, but that her friend had pegged him to be here because of Dulce, she wasn't as certain. If he wasn't a member of the press or a cop, there wasn't any reason for him to be here. She added the final set to the growing rolled silverware pile, then stood to grab the pot of brewed coffee and make her rounds. The next 15 minutes flew by as she refilled mugs, cleared dirty dishes, and handed out checks. By the time she caught her breath, the handsome stranger had gone. With a shrug, she finished clearing the empty tables, then quickly wiped them down. In the back, she picked up the bulging black trash bag sitting by the back door. "Taking 5 out back, Jim." The owner and breakfast cook waved his spatula in acknowledgement before returning his attention to cleaning the grill. Dulce grabbed the trash bag and pushed open the door. Stepping out into the sultry August heat, she lugged the bag to the dumpster at the side of the gravel parking lot. After depositing the refuse and ensuring the lid clanged down, she brushed off her hands. The small circle of tree stumps in the far right corner of the lot, which was edged on 3 sides by woods, beckoned her for a quick break. She brushed off one of the stumps and sat with her back to the building, pulling her phone from her apron pocket to check for messages. Nothing, like usual. Replacing the device, she closed her eyes, breathing in the humid air and allowing the heat to press in on her. After the frigid air conditioning of the diner, being outside felt heavenly, but in a couple of minutes the oppressive air would send her scurrying back inside. Opening her eyes, she rose and turned toward the restaurant, jumping back as she spotted 2 strangers a few feet away. Her breath caught in her throat at the danger emanating from the pair like mist rolling down a mountain. Dulce took a step toward the back door, but one of the men blocked her path. "Excuse me, but I'm needed back at the diner," she stated evenly.
"We won't take but a minute of your time,"
the taller one said, his voice sounding as if he'd eaten a side of gravel.
"Tell us where the diamonds are and we'll be on our way."
Bad enough she'd lost her sweet boy because of those blasted rocks, but after 3 years of silence, she couldn't bear to think it was starting all over again. Kiernan had suffered enough because of his social communication disorder, which made it difficult for him to interact with peers and adults alike. "I don't know anything about any diamonds." Gravel Voice raised his hands as if in mock surrender.
"If you want to play dumb, that's your choice, but it'll cost you."
Dulce straightened her shoulders. "Don't you get it? I'm not playing at anything. Let me put it in plain words so you'll understand." She ignored the man's narrowed eyes and the inner warning telling her not to push this particular man too far. She was tired of being harassed about some stupid stones. One more legacy Trey Smith, her late husband, had left her. I do not know anything about diamonds. Gravel Voice's companion balanced on the balls of his feet, his energy vibrating like a jackhammer. With a movement of his hand, Gravel Voice sent a signal to the other man, who shot toward Dulce so fast she didn't have time to react before he grabbed her arm and twisted it up behind her in a grip that brought tears to her eyes and an ache to her shoulder. Gravel Voice walked closer as his companion restrained her.
He hasn't had any fun lately, so unless you want to experience more pain than you ever thought possible, you'll tell us what we want to know.